We've been here many times before. We've had great shows here before. We started out very, very small, a little place called Dobbs that held about 65 people. And you've always, but I tell you, and then we've been here the last few days. This is the crowd we've been waiting for. I don't know where you've been the last few days. This is the crowd that this building deserves, is what I'm saying. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. For all of you that have been tuning in for a long time, welcome back. For those of you new tuning in, the show, what we do on the show weekly is we take one live show from the Pearl Jam catalog and we break it down song by song, the whole set list, little sections of the set list, and, you know, a little bit of the history and the background of the show and the performances as well. We'll play some songs throughout. So if you're a brand new listener, welcome. And again, if you've been listening the whole time, you guys have been great. You guys are the greatest fans that we can ask for. Randy Sobel here, John Farrar over there. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good. Doing good. You ready to get into the show?
Yeah, man, we've been sticking in this era, this, late 2000s, early 2010s. So we should be well versed in this era right now.
I'm so ready to get out of it. No offense. I know people are listening in and they're really excited for this show. I am too. I enjoyed the show, but I'm ready to get back to 90s stuff and get back to your father's, your grandfather's Pearl Jam, essentially.
You can only take so many dad jokes per show.
I know. I want the vigor. I want the attitude back. I want Dave A back. These things are coming. Next week we'll be back with that. But
next week's a good one.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a mixture for the rest of the year, and you'll see a couple 90s things. We got to finish up the MSG series, so that's at least 2 from 2016. So we're trying, folks. We're trying to make it balanced. We're trying to make it interesting for everybody, but we can promise you in 2020 it's going to be a really, really interesting mix. We've started the discussions, and we're kind of almost booked until February. We're getting a lot of stuff in, a lot of surprises too.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Going to be hitting a lot of the 90s stuff, and we've got like an overarching theme for the year that I think we're working with. I think it's going to be really cool.
I think you guys are going to like it. I think it's going to give a lot of people who might not have a chance to have listened to a show that they've been to that we've covered to possibly get one. So and also stuff that basically kind of gets lost in the Pearl Jam lore. Places that, they don't talk about ever going and eras that kind of get pushed to the side. So we're
doing these big shows like these MSGs and Spectrums and Pink Pops and all this is great. But my favorite part of this is digging in and finding those hidden gems and the ones that the ones that nobody talks about that are great. Because every Pearl Jam show has got great moments in it. So I really want to get in and find some of those that are kind of the lost gems that we can unearth and get people excited about.
I fully agree. And that's why, we haven't touched up on like a Randall's Island or a Mansfield yet, because you gotta mix in the hits with, with some of the gems too. So, we'll save some stuff for later on in the Live on Four Legs.
I think I hear people yelling. I think I hear in the distance. I can hear people yelling, "Wrigley, Wrigley!"
They are.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. We got ideas. We got plans. Hold all the horses. It might be all at once. Who knows? But yeah, we have some plans. We have some ideas. We think you guys are gonna like everything. If you like Pearl Jam, I think you're gonna like this stuff. That's the whole premise of this, right?
Absolutely.
So. But if you like more content, if you like things that, are not necessarily on either Apple Podcast or Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen, if you like, say, Evolution episodes or even stuff that was left off of these episodes, the regular episodes, you're going to want to head over to patreon.com/liveon4legs. Become and contribute to our Patreon account. We have a good group going there, and we've been kicking it into high gear with a lot of really good content lately.
Yeah, we got a couple of new patrons this week. Who do we have?
Dylan Sumter and Jason Corbin, and they've actually been patron donors for a couple weeks now, but this is the first opportunity that we've had to say their names on air. So both of you, a big thank you. And
absolutely.
I've already had conversations with them, and we're starting to figure out what their requests are going to be. So stay tuned for all that. But speaking of requests, what's one of the big things that you get from being a Patreon contributor?
You get your own Stone Gossard mid-90s Halloween costume.
I want that.
Orange
I want
beanie
that.
And
can I have that?
And, if you sign up for $1 a month, and it can be yours.
I actually, funny side story, I went to see Wilco like about a week ago, and there was an opener for him. She was just a solo female, and she was called Daughter of Swords. And I swear to God, she was wearing an orange creamsicle beanie, and it reminded me of Stone on Letterman.
We gotta work in some Halloween costume stuff in here. Let us know if they're gonna be Eddie or mid-90s Stone for Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, go to the thrift store, go pick up a corduroy jacket,
And get an accordion and walk around playing bugs all night.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect Halloween costume. I would definitely give you the whole candy bowl if you came to my house. Maybe not.
There you go, people.
Maybe not the M&Ms. Maybe not the Snickers. Maybe not the Kit Kats. Or maybe not anything.
He's giving out the Reese's. You heard it.
Oh, forgot about the Reese's. Yeah, definitely not the Reese's. You can have Whoppers and Almond Joy. You can have those. I hate those. But it's funny that you mentioned that in Halloween, and obviously this show is a Halloween era show, or time period show, being around Halloween. That's why
10 years exactly, right?
Exactly. Yep. You're listening to this on the 30th. It's 10 years to the day, and that means this is technically our In My Treehouse of Horror episode 2, because last year we did In My Treehouse of Horror episode 1. Just a little pun, Pearl. Bad dad joke pun. Yeah, that's a joke for all you Simpsons and Pearl Jam aficionados out there. I know that there's definitely one that hosts another Pearl Jam podcast. His name might rhyme with Schmanden Shmalomo, as he likes to say. But yeah, In My Treehouse of Horror episode 2, it's going to be the third night of the Spectrum. So where do we start with this, with a little background, John?
Well, the Spectrum's closing down. People know Philadelphia, the Flyers and the 76ers and all that played there. I can give you some Eric Lindros goal.
The Legion of Doom line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah, at the beginning of the show, you get a little montage of some great Spectrum moments they played over the PA there. It must have been cool for those people.
Yeah, and it's a really big time in Philadelphia. The World Series is going on. The Phillies are looking to be back-to-back world champions. I'm barfing at this because it's the worst World Series that I can imagine. It's a Phillies-Yankees World Series. It's fucking god-awful for a Mets fan. If you're a Yankee or a Philly fan, you probably loved it if you were a Yankee fan. But the Phillies fans, it happened to be an off day during the series. I think it was in between games 2 and 3 because night 4 there was a game going on. They were across the street, and there was a point in that show where I guess the crowd realized they were losing, and the place deflated. So at least this show they didn't have the games to think about, and that might have been a reason why the first 2 nights, by some accounts, weren't as good. And by some accounts, I mean Eddie. Because Ed says in the show, you guys brought it tonight. Where was this the past 2 nights?
Yeah.
So
people distracted looking at their phones during the show.
Yeah, and you know what? Rightfully so. But come on, Pearl Jam's closing down the Spectrum. I think.
Yeah.
You know, there's important things going on here. So I get it though. You know, you're buying tickets when over the summer. Yeah, sure. You're hoping and praying that the Phillies make the World Series, but there's no guarantee there. So just the aura around the city and everything happening at the same time, it must have been really cool.
There's a lot of Raul Ibanez talk at the show.
Yep, there definitely is. He's in attendance somewhere, and I guess the band is friends with him. And I used to work with him, so I know him kind of well. He's a really good dude. I didn't get the chance to talk to him about Pearl Jam, though, because I didn't know the connection, him being a former Seattle Mariner. But, yeah, just kind of a really cool time in Philadelphia and, sort of nostalgic for people 10 years later to think about.
And yeah, just another one of those venues, like the Garden in Boston and places like that, the Chicago places they played that just aren't around anymore.
Actually, both of those places, they either, the Chicago Stadium, they either closed that one down or they were the second to last.
Right.
And I think Boston Garden, they were definitely the second to last. So I'm sure somebody like Aerosmith was the last.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, I was reading that in the PJ20 book earlier. So, but it's kind of cool that they've been able to get these opportunities where they're that big of a band that they can close a legendary building. Who would have thought?
And the timing worked out too because, when Backspacer came out, they kind of had a resurgence of, media attention and hype around them. So this was a good time where a lot of people who had checked out during the late 90s, early 2000s kind of got back in, so they kind of had a resurgence in their fandom around this time.
But you know what they didn't have at the time?
What's that?
A Backspacer coloring book.
Oh, order yours now. They're going fast.
Available now. Oh, boy. I think I might buy one for my wife.
And there you go.
If I color one, I'm going to color Stone as a blue meanie. That he's just
with an orange beanie. Put an orange beanie on him.
Exactly. Just color them all blue meanies. But the cool thing about this 4-night stretch here is that between them, 103 songs were played. I don't know about how many different songs were played, but as far as the Alives and Jeremy's go, I think some of those were doubled up. But
I think he mentions they had talked about trying to play every song that they knew, really, kind of like a Mansfield Experiment Part 2. But those things are hard to work out.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they they tried. They did a valiant effort for sure. When we had our trivia question a few weeks ago about which cities were the first to hear each album, and these 4 shows put Philly on the map for a couple of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially Backspacer because
Right.
all the promotion at the time. But I think as far as trying to do Mansfield with 2 more albums and a Lost Dogs album under your belt is, they definitely succeeded in attempting that. So, you know, cool shows, and obviously we covered the closing of the Spectrum show last year. I think that was really the first episode that we did that we realized, shit, this is going to be a really long podcast because there were like 45 songs in that, and that was 3 hours long. I remember Matt and I were just tired by the end of it, and we couldn't speak anymore.
I mean, there were a lot of cool stories around that one too. You had
There was
the story about the guy that had the sign from the stadium, and yeah, that's a cool episode. People should check out if they haven't.
Yeah, and that guy, he still has the Spectrum S. He's on Instagram. He's on Facebook. Go check him out. He's looking for all the acts that have played at the Spectrum, athletes, maybe like GMs and owners of teams, and he has a bunch. He has a ton, and I think the only ones from Pearl Jam that he has are Jeff and Mike, or Stone and Mike. I can't remember which ones, but he's still looking for the rest of the band. So if you have a hookup and the band goes to Philly anytime in 2020 or the near or later future, then this is the guy to talk to. I think
I'm sure he'll be there.
Yeah, I think the account is called Philly Spectrum S on Instagram, and we plugged him last year, so plug him again this year because he's a good dude.
Sure. Yeah.
So sports clips play in the background. You hear Flyers win, Sixers win, Dr. J, the Bernie
Eric
Perron,
Lindros. That's all I got.
Mike Schmidt, I guess, but he's not in that building. I don't. Yeah, Eagles not in the building. So yeah, Philly sports. And then you get the Rocky music hits, and the band takes the stage, and I think that's a pretty cool moment to come out to the Rocky song.
Yeah, it's one of those uplifting things. It's here for the people there. It gets a good crowd response. People are into it.
Yeah, it's a hometown kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and that kicks us into the first song of the night. See My Friend, first song from Backspacer. A lot of Backspacer on this show, obviously, but to start it off here with the first song in is pretty cool. Not really used much as an opener in the history. It's only been played 15 total times, opened with twice. I like it to kickstart a show. I wish it was a more powerful live song than it is, though.
Yeah, it's one of those that didn't really stick around after the initial album cycle, and it should have. Yeah, it works great here. I thought it was a good choice. And these Backspacer songs that we're getting in the show, now's the time that you want to get them because they're tight. The band knows them. They've been practicing them.
Right.
They're fresh, so you're getting really good tight versions of them. we're not getting a lot of like sloppy versions of Johnny Guitar or whatever like you would get in 2018, 2019. So I thought it was great. Gonna see My Friend's a great live song, and I wish it would have stuck around more.
Yeah, and they go right into the Fixer from that, and
Our contractually obligated Fixer agreements.
pretty much, yeah. We have another one from that album, contractually obligated later, but I really don't have much to ever say on the Fixer, so it's there for the time, and
it's one of the blandest Pearl Jam songs. I know. Sorry, send the messages to me if you want, but it's just kind of like it's just a nice pop rock song. It's inoffensive.
Yeah. Look, it's fun hearing it back then. It was fun to hear live. I think if I heard it now, I would just I wouldn't even think about it. It would just kind of. I would look the other way, kind of bored, but it's really not a big deal. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about at the top here is how they transition to do 2 songs and then have Ed speak and go into In My Tree. And I really felt like there should have been at least one more song to bridge before In My Tree, and the one that's just sticking out in my head, I really think that a Last Exit would have worked really well there. I mean, obviously you're thinking Corduroy, but you gotta save the big song for night 4. So you get a Last Exit, it kind of keeps the pace going, it's quick, and then you could stop and go into In My Tree. But to do 2 and stop, I thought that was a little weak.
Well, they kind of do a little call and response, like a little hey-oh.
Well, that's
hey-oh.
I think that's a tribute to Freddie Mercury, who Queen played the Spectrum billions of times. I think that's an homage to that.
Could be. But it's also gives the crowd a chance to get involved early and and for Eddie to kind of gauge how the crowd's going to be, because that's something that we've talked about, like how he's so good at reading the crowd and knowing what he can get away with and when he can pull this song here and this song here and adjusting on the fly and things like that. So that was probably him at the beginning trying to feel them out, like, hey, what do we have tonight? Because like you said, like we mentioned, maybe those first 2 nights the crowd wasn't as into it as they felt like they should have been, or whatever. Maybe this was him like feeling it out, like maybe they did have something audible in case that didn't go well, and maybe they do a Save You or a whatever Last Exit, something like that, but it gets a good response, the crowd's into it, so they decide to go In My Tree, and In My Tree is a fucking fantastic song anytime you get it.
Of course.
I love it here. Matt's got the drums down, he throws in some extra fills and things, so I loved hearing it in this part. I love hearing it anytime.
Another throwback to an old episode, episode number 3, Chicago United Center, 2009, night 2. They actually, this is 2 months before this show. They actually did In My Tree as the number 3 song on that show too. And I think it went Hard to Imagine, Last Exit, In My Tree. And I think that was one of the early things that Matt and I had talked about, that if they had just switched a couple of things around and In My Tree maybe after Hard to Imagine and then get into All the Rockers, that it would have worked. But I guess it was something that was on their mind that they were thinking about doing at the time, so at least it's consistent.
Yeah, and they maybe thought like, hey, it worked then, let's try it again. And and I trust Ed in these things. Like he's played 1,000 shows, he's been at all different kinds of venues. He knows where to put these songs. I'm not going to try to second guess the placement in this one.
No,
especially doing 4 shows back to back to back to back. You can experiment a little bit and try some different things, and he knows the crowd's still going to be behind him.
I think that's fair, and I think a theme for this whole entire show is just finding uncommon songs in places that they wouldn't necessarily be in a more structured set list. And I think that's one of the charms of this show.
Absolutely. And this is In My Tree is the first of 4 no-code songs you get in a main set. And
which is
how many times can you say that in the last 15, 20 years? So yeah, absolutely.
You get not only 4 no-code songs in the main set, but 2 binaural songs.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, so In My Tree goes into Given to Fly. This is a powerful song, and everybody's chanting the fuckers part, and the crowd is really into this one for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and in a main set full of like some rarer songs, some songs that have one song that's never been played, a few songs that don't get played often. You need like Given to Fly as kind of the anchor, one of those moments for the crowd at this set. We talked about that first MSG 2010 show where there weren't those moments in the main set, where he didn't give the crowd something to hold on to, but Given to Fly here I think works really well.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit more of that in this, but there are some placement things that I don't know if I'm confused by it, but like I think it's intrigued is
it's an odd main set. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
but I think and that's just a function of playing 4 shows back to back to back to back,
right? And trying not to stay to the structure that you used for the first 2 shows, because the first 2 shows, by all accounts, I think I actually I was offered tickets tonight too. I have. At least there's been at least 3 Philly shows that I've been offered tickets to that I had to decline because I had to work. Because Philly's one of those weird places where it's a 4-hour drive. If I have to work the next day, I can't stay the night and then head back and go to work.
That's when you just got to take the train and fall asleep on the train.
Yeah, exactly, and end up in Hoboken or whatever crap like that. But I thankfully wasn't offered tickets to the 10 show. I was offered tickets to the other night, so at least I skipped out on that. But really, here after Given to Fly, you have kind of your first holy shit moment with a song that's pretty rare in Tremor Christ, and this is a throwback to 1994, 1995, where this is Tremor Christ in its sweet spot. You get a couple, a Spin the Black Circle and a Brain of J or something like that really early, and then you kind of you kind of twist it and change the pace a little bit and bring in a Tremor Christ. I have always loved this song in this spot, and that's kind of an homage to that, I would think.
Yeah, they played it really fast too. The opening's really fast. I really liked it, and you get a cool Ed scream at the end there. I thought it was great. Yeah,
no issues with Tremor Christ whatsoever. I'll take it, every other show if I had to. Untitled and MFC after that, and I keep wanting to say entitled. Untitled.
That's a different song. That's going to be on the new album. Where
and that's about all of you. I'm just kidding, not you guys.
No,
not our listeners.
He does the cool thing, get down to the spectrum. And it's going fast.
Somehow let's get down to the spectrum, 'cause it's going fast.
Kind of a chance for him to give a little nod to the situation they're in there.
Do you have a theory as to why he changes the amount of minutes every time he does that? Like sometimes it's 35 minutes or so, or it's 20 minutes or so.
I think he just makes it up on the fly.
Okay, it's just whatever's in his head.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a method to the madness.
It could have been obvious. Like how far the bus ride was from the hotel to the venue. Like we don't know.
That's an amazing mystery, and we've uncovered a lot of good mysteries on the show. We've actually last week we uncovered a mystery from one of the Brooklyn shows from a couple years ago. The version of All Those Yesterdays where he said, don't you think you ought to lay your sign down? We found the guy with the sign.
Yeah.
And he complied, and he put his sign down. So another mystery solved by Live on Four Legs, everybody.
Our detective crew's hard at work.
Yep, we're fishing for these stories. But MFC, no gnawing on this, so I'm waiting for it. I'm always waiting for the gnawing, and you know that I'm going to play it if it's gnawing, and I don't get it.
It's still great, though. MFC's a great song. Totally underrated song on Yield.
I love the song. I'm picky about it live though. Sometimes I feel like there's a lack of atmospheric vibe to it. This is somewhere in the middle. This isn't bad. Something is a tiny bit off. Whether it's like Ed just not hitting the higher notes that he has to hit on this, but
is Matt there with you? Are we channeling Matt a little bit in this
no,
episode?
we're not. No, it's not that critical. It's not that critical. Ed says in the next speaking engagement, he mentions another Matt. He says, "We are making an attempt to play this next song, and we've never played it with Matt, not Matt, the Live on Four Legs bass player, but MFC, as the last song would say."
Do we have a Live on Four Legs band? Is he would be the Live on Four Legs bass player? What does that make me? Are we going a double bass attack, lead bass and rhythm bass? we can do something like that.
I mean, do you want to be Les Claypool? Like, you hate Les Claypool.
No, that would Matt can play lead bass. I'll play rhythm bass.
All right. Well, we don't really have a drummer. I can't play shit. Buckley can play guitar. Maybe Aurelian can drum for us or something like that, or Bagel. We'll find somebody to play the bongos.
Sounds good.
Yeah, there you go. Our Live on Four Legs band, and we'll get a Hawaiian surfer.
Perfect.
Ship him up, and he'll be on keys. And doesn't matter what his name is. That's Boom.
Perfect.
We got it figured out, you guys. So obviously don't want to underplay this here because this is a pretty big moment in the show. But Ed says they'd never played the song with Matt, and he said they haven't played it for a long time. And then he realized midway through, he's like, actually, I don't know if we've ever played it. And it's one of the rare lost dogs. Hold on. Say rare lost dogs. Hold On was unreleased. A lot of the Lost Dogs had been released as B-sides or what have you, but Hold On was one of those, especially being from 1993 or so, that wasn't released at all.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of confusion. Like, is it from the 10 era? Is it from the Versus era? I think there was some competing. There were some sources that were conflicting as to actually when it was. Is it from 92? Is it from 93? But yeah, I don't know how it managed to stay hidden for 10, 11 years.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, but it obviously, what it doesn't benefit from on Lost Dogs, I think it's like second to last track on one of the albums. It should be much higher, you would think, right?
That it's so hard to sequence those things when you're talking about B-sides and stuff that was previously released and stuff that wasn't recorded together in all different eras. Like, I mean, they could have just thrown darts at a wall and sequenced it. But
I know, but I just think that maybe if it were higher, maybe they would have recognized it a little more, and maybe before the Spectrum they would have dabbled with it or at least made an attempt. And I think it's only been played 7 or 8 times to this date.
Yeah,
a very small amount, and obviously this is the debut.
And give them credit too,
5
because
times.
a lot of times when you get a debut like this of a song that hasn't been played in years and years and years, like not even played at a show, played by the band, period. It can be a little rusty, and it can be, they're prone to making mistakes, but they nailed it.
I thought this was fantastic.
They got through it without screwing up, and kudos to them, because it's I'm sure it wasn't easy, but yeah, I mean it would have been so cool to be there. There's nothing like being in the crowd when you get a debut like this. I'm sure it was really special for those people in the crowd.
Yeah, I think that's your, a big holy shit, like this is going to be a legendary show kind of moment, that you're going to get something that, you may never get again. Like they did this at Wrigley, and they did this in Lollapalooza and in Brazil or Chile. I can't remember which one it was last year, but this is one of the, serious collector kind of songs. One question I have for you, this is obviously, a Stone song all the way through. How do you feel about that intro where they kind of, instead of going back, it's kind of a jarring intro to the song. And since we haven't talked about the song on the show, this is the Live on Four Legs debut of Hold On. How do you feel about that? I think it's really interesting that it kind of goes wow, no, 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 and it takes like half a chunk out of the first bar and repeats the rest. Like, it's a really interesting way that Stone wrote that, and I'm kind of sometimes perplexed by it a little bit, whether it's confusing, whether I like it, but I don't think a lot of other people can pull it off besides him.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on those 91, 92, 93 shows that we've talked about, that Stone is just a monster back then. Like his songwriting was unparalleled at the time. I think it's great. I don't understand. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when they were discussing it back in the day, as far as like whether it was going to make the album, whether it was going to, make B-side status or something. Like I think it would have fit maybe on 10, maybe not. The lyrics aren't quite as angsty as some of the other stuff on there, maybe for Versus, but then Versus has a different feel to it. It's a little darker. Maybe something like Hold On doesn't really fit in, but yeah, I don't understand why it never made a B-side status. But yeah, I think it's so cool. Like Stone is great at pulling out those kind of strange guitar riffs and making them work.
Yeah, that's, and that is part of the mystique to the song, that, it is a very unique Stone song, and they don't pull it out very often. And the
lyrics are great. Like lyrically, it fits right in with what they were doing. I think it's strong. There's no reason it should have hit the cutting room floor back then.
No, but you know what? It just makes it more enjoyable now, and more, something that people have on their statistical list, so to speak, if you're counting at home and compiling stats. So, here Ed kind of says, he mentions what we mentioned before about, trying to play every song that they wrote in 4 days, but they need 6 days to do it. The crowd boos, and Ed says, don't piss them off. We'll keep it interesting, I promise. That gets in a little stretch here of Unthought Known and In Hiding. Good stuff. And I think Ed, during Unthought Known, and still, I love bringing up really early versions of Unthought Known when it was still developing into a popular song. I think the band really wants this to be the one that they keep from Backspacer. And when you hear the clapping, Ed says in that beginning, he says, "Good encouragement, thank you." I really feel like he's trying to make an attempt for this song to be the one that lasts.
It's the closest thing to a classic Pearl Jam song that you get on Backspacer, I think. So yeah, I think they, and Pearl Jam, they've been a band for years and years, even at this point. So you kind of know when you hit on something in the studio or when you're rehearsing or in practice when you're writing. You kind of get that feeling like this is going to be special. And I think Unthought Known is one of the rare ones in the last few albums that really has a special feel to it, especially live. Like it really works well, and it really gets a good reaction from the crowd. It's one of the best songs they've written in the last 15 years, probably.
Yeah, I would take that and Lightning Bolt as like two of the best songs that have that staying power for sure. But yeah, it did. You can feel the crowd that they're getting into it, that they're vibing on it. But obviously a couple years later, and this is a pivotal song for them and played almost every single night.
And then you get right back into the rarities.
Yeah, in hiding. Here's what I was saying before with uncommon songs in places where you may not see them. Obviously, you have to bring up like even flow territory here, and you're not getting it. But In Hiding is more of kind of the song in the Tremor Christ or a little bit later spot. So to get it after Unthought, no, it's in a strange spot where I don't know if I like it or I'm not feeling it. But the crowd is feeling it. The crowd does a good job with it.
He does a little pandering too, where I was fucking high as hell.
Let me tell you something. I was fucking high as hell.
Yep, that was fun. Good singing there, and Ed says that was the best I've ever heard on that song. He's wrong. Do you remember Vic Theater?
Well, Vic Theater didn't have as many people there. It wasn't as loud. It was a smaller venue.
I was able to hear it on the boot.
Well, yeah, the boots.
I don't know if
being in the room is different.
Has gone back to listen to the boots, but that's just me. I love that version. I'll take it to the grave. So, here are the rarities. They don't seem too rare when you talk about them in the grand scheme of covering in 2019 and all the songs that we've covered, and we've talked about these plenty of times. But Deep and Habit are back to back here, and between the two of them, I don't want to do the math, but it's about between the two of them almost 350 shows delayed. Deep hadn't been played since 2003. That was the first time they brought it back, and Cameron in 2003 only played it 10 times.
Yeah.
So really, not a song that he had been familiar with. And Habit, I think, was 146 shows before they brought it back here. I think the last time before that was in 2005. So two pretty rare songs. I think they killed it on Deep. I think Deep sounded really good in this.
Times you get we've talked about it too, where you get the riff has kind of become a little more generic in recent years. But yeah, I thought this version of Deep was great. They probably sound checked it a few times and made sure. But yeah, I mean, think about it. If you were to get a main set with Within My Tree, Tremor Christ, Untitled MFC, Hold On, In Hiding, Deep, Habit, you'd be thrilled. You'd be like, what the hell's going on?
Right, yeah. I mean, at least for, again, for people that are collectors and stat heads and things like that, or even for the people that have been to multiple shows and haven't seen Habit since 2002. That's a special kind of moment. I've had those moments with songs before where it took me years before I saw Red Mosquito again, and when I got it again, I was excited and happy to get it. So,
and when you talk about it too, I think this tour, the 2006 tour, kind of started it. I think where they were kind of more comfortable with who they were and their back catalog, and they kind of realized, well, the fans kind of deserve to bring some of these things back. We don't, they don't have maybe some of the baggage that a lot of those old songs have is kind of fallen off. So
right.
They, starting in 2006 and moving to 2009 and on, they kind of started bringing back a lot of those things, and the set list kind of became a little more unpredictable in the recent years. And you even see that in 2016, 2018. Think of all the crazy things that have happened, and a lot of that
Out of My Mind.
Yeah, exactly. Strangest Tribe got played.
Bugs.
Evil Little Goat got played.
Yep.
A lot of that started around this time where they kind of got more comfortable in their own skin, and we can bring this stuff back, and it's not going to be weird. Like even if we screw it up, people aren't going to care. They're still going to love it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Creedy Stomp. That's what I'm waiting for.
You might be waiting a while.
Yeah, I would figure, but one can dream. So yep, those are the two pretty rare ones, and we have another pretty rare one coming later in the set as well. Really packaging this kind of the end of the set here, the last 6 songs, and we'll sort of touch up on each of them, but real quick, this is how they end the first set. Crop Duster into Off He Goes, into Force of Nature, into Present Tense, into Got Some, into Do the Evolution. That's an interesting little section there with some crowd favorites and some ones again like a Crop Duster that don't come up very often. So and like I said, within Hiding, Crop Duster's really in a spot where when it was on the Riot Act tour, it was more towards the top as that little break after the hard-hitting first section.
Yeah, I think that first half of Riot Act is underrated by a lot of people. You got a Thumbing My Way, Ghost, Crop Duster, Save You, Love Boat Captain. A lot of those are great songs. So I think Crop Duster's great. It would have been awesome to hear it. I'd love to hear it at a show someday. Off He Goes, great. Present Tense, obviously one of those crowd moments that the McCready gets to take over. And then of course, You Love Got Some, so I'll give you the chance to talk about that one.
Oh, less 2 to 3 minutes, and it's really here's what I kind of like about the Backspacer songs and covering them. They almost, and it's kind of why I, the opposite of why I like other songs, but the Backspacer songs really don't change at all.
Yeah, none of them have really.
And how are they
none
going
of them have really, and we've been doing those evolution episodes. None of them have really evolved. They just kind of are what they are.
They kind of can't, right? Yeah. It's what are you going to do to Got Some? There's no way to tag. There's no call and response.
And think about how many of them just don't get played. Like Johnny Guitar never gets played. Gonna See My Friend never gets played. Speed of Sound disappeared. Force of Nature disappeared. The End has pretty much disappeared. Like there's only been a few that have managed to stick around.
But I will have to say, even though Backspacer's towards the bottom of in my album pantheon, I would say that a lot of those songs I like hearing better on the album, and we've talked about it a billion times. A lot of these played live is in a drop tuning, and Gonna See My Friend, that was in drop tuning on this. Didn't mention it, but Habit was actually in drop tuning. That was something we didn't get into, but I had an opinion about that. We'll just skip it. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Force of Nature is in drop. Well,
yeah, I mean, that's something you get when people get older. There's the vocal cords just aren't what they used to be, so they have to adjust.
Right, and I think with the new songs, I think you're looking for that same fire and passion that that you're just soaking in for the first time, and you're not necessarily getting that. And maybe that's why a song like Unthought Known is so prominent, because they can bring it to that level without it being dropped.
And think about it too, in the studio, like he can take a whole day to do one vocal track. He can have honey tea and rest his voice for a day and then come back and do a vocal on an album, and then they can take as long as they want to record Backspacer. I think it took 30 days to record Backspacer, so he had plenty of time to work on the vocals. But when you're doing 25-30 songs in a set, he can't just like take a 30-minute break and be like, guys, I'm gonna go have some tea, then we'll come back and we'll hit these. Like, it's just not feasible. So I mean, they give them credit. I mean, they made it work. And would you rather have that, or would you rather them just never play those songs? That's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm always in favor for a balanced set list, and try to get as much in from every album as possible. Even if it's just one from each album on a show, I think that's getting further than you can expect. And if you can get one, and you get a binaural song,
off he goes in present tense, topping off the 4 no code songs in the main set, and then got some making 5 Backspacer songs. So almost half the main set, more than half probably, is no code and Backspacer on their own.
A couple of yields too. I think there's 3 yield. I think you got given a Fly MFC and Evolution. So
in hiding too.
Oh, in hiding, yeah. This is a really balanced set. There's a lot to it, but after Backspacer, there's 4 10 songs, 4 yield songs, 4 no code songs, 3 covers, 2 Lost Dogs, 2 binaural, 2 Vitalogy, and the rest are 1. So that's, and Backspacers at 6. So that's pretty good balance there.
Yeah, they made up for the lack of 10 and verses in the encores.
Yeah, I think so. Here also, you have somewhere in the middle of this, Ed mentions that it's Ben Harper's 40th birthday, so he was going to give him a call. I don't think it really went as well as expected, but he was trying to get the crowd to chant happy birthday, and but more importantly, if he turned 40 10 years ago, that means he's just turning 50 now. So
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ben Harper. And ending the set with Evolution. This is a really good way to end it. And obviously Evolution is one of those songs, powerful, and you finish on a really strong point here. With
it was definitely needed after the kind of scattered main set.
Yeah. And look, whenever there's a big show in a big arena in a big city, he'll do "This Is Our Church," sing like a choir, and that part is obviously it's an exciting part, and he gets really passionate, really into it. This just a tight version overall. Good way to end the first set.
Absolutely, love it.
So encore time here. Ed is talking to the crowd a bit and talks to a guy. He's bantering with people in the front. He says this guy is seeing his last Pearl Jam show as a single person, and then he talks to a 12-year-old and says hi to him, and then Ed brings up a nice little story, a sad story, but happy ending, about when they played in Hawaii. They had some fans from Australia came to the show, and one of the fans got into a horrific car accident and had to stay in a hospital in Maui for a couple weeks. And Ed said that they wrote letters back and forth, and he got a letter from somebody saying that she would be there tonight. So Ed points her out in the crowd and has her moved to the side of the stage. I mean, that's that is one of the best things that Ed does is whenever
they're really good about monitoring the forums and looking for special cases like that, and making a note to take care of those people and to show them they appreciate the effort that they make.
Yeah, and look, it's we've told great stories on here, about people that have had brain cancer and survived, and Ed, with them not knowing that they've even made tribute to them on stage. Somebody gets in the band's ear and says, "Hey, Bill wants to hear 'Hard to Imagine' in Tampa," and the band says, he suffered through enough. I think we can do this for him.
And they know the impact that their songs have on people. Like, everyone who's listening to this can name more than a handful of Pearl Jam songs that have influenced their life, and I know I can.
Sure.
Had a huge impact on their life, meant something to them, means something special, something above and beyond just a normal song means to you. So it's kudos to them for realizing that and making sure that that they give the fans the recognition that they deserve.
Absolutely. So the next song to start the encore is Just Breathe, and we have the string quartet here for it. And
we're gonna have to put this string quartet on salary. We've been having them on a lot lately.
We sure have, which kind of leads us to a question of the day. We kind of inadvertently last week made up a question of the day segment, and we haven't seen any of the response from it because we're kind of recording at a time where it's right after the episode had aired. So maybe next time we'll read some emails if we get from that. But question of the day here. We were talking about before we went on, what Pearl Jam song would you like to hear with a string quartet? And there's some interesting songs that we're about to get to with Just Breathe.
My choice would have been Lucan, but that's already been done.
That's already done, yeah, twice. So
I gotta think Footsteps would be really cool.
Yeah,
Light Years, I'd love to hear that with the strings.
Would you like an S&M with Pearl Jam? Would you be into that?
Explain what we're talking about.
Symphony and Metallica.
I know they did that with the Mad Season a while back, where they had the Mad Season Symphony thing. It was all right. I mean, I probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be into that. But a few songs here and there, I don't mind.
It's too gimmicky.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. I don't want. Orchestral Pearl Jam is not something that sounds that sounds good to my ears.
Right. How are you going to do stuff like Not For You and Corduroy and Whipping?
That seems wrong to me.
Yeah. I can understand that, but again, question of the day.
But hey, it's
Live on Four
Legs 2019. Podcast. I'll take what I can get. I mean, if they announce it tomorrow, I'm there.
Exactly. Live on Four Legs Podcast at gmail.com. Answer our question of the day. What song would you like to hear with a string accompaniment? And
I'm excited. I
had a couple of them.
Hopefully we'll get some interesting answers. I know there's probably some we haven't thought of. So let us know what you think, and we'll read some of the cooler ones next week.
I think that's a great idea. So get us your email and we'll get it on air. So Just Breathe. I mean, I hate glancing over it because it's a special song when you add a string section to it, but it has been done a bunch of times, so it's not like it doesn't feel special. It's just we have mentioned it a bunch of times,
and whenever there's strings, Just Breathe is going to get played.
Exactly. Which is the kind of predictable that's the good kind of predictable.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, beautiful melody. Nothing bad to say about it.
Yep, Matt Cameron's vocals, backups are great in this, and it's the perfect song. I think you have to do it in the spot. But there are some here that you don't normally get with strings, and this next one in particular sounds really fantastic. From Binaural, we have, since 126 shows, Parting Ways is back in the set list here.
Love it.
There's a fear he'll soon be parted ways. Drifting away,
underrated songs on Binaural. We talked about underrated songs on Riot Act. Binaural has the second half of Binaural is really underrated. Some really cool stuff on there that doesn't get played as often as it should.
I agree with you, and I think, I can get into my take on Binaural as a full album at another time. I think that the album itself lacks from track listing, issue, and maybe some other songs like Sad and Education or something
Fatal.
like that should have been in it. Fatal, right? Like, it is missing a couple. Maybe Rival could have been one of the B-sides instead. But Parting Ways is definitely one that over the past year or two I've started to appreciate a real lot more. It's powerful. It's deep. It gets really powerful as you go along at the end when you're doing the drifting away part, especially in this one.
Great stuff from Cameron on the drums on this one too.
Yup, Ed's holding out that last note on Drifting Away, and the crowd is in all appreciation. This is a perfect song to do with strings. This was great.
Yeah, it would have been awesome to see it.
And do you know what the last time they had done this song to this date was?
I do not.
It was Grand Rapids.
Oh, cool.
A show we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, a show we speak very highly of. So that was part of that, Grand Rapids experiment that they were doing in the first encore, where it's kind of what they do in encores nowadays, where it's the cool down. But Parting Ways was part of that, so I figured I'd bring that up because we have the tie-in, and I know that Bradley is definitely listening, and
nice.
That's his show. So here we get another string song, another one you wouldn't expect on strings, and honestly, I had a tough time hearing the string section in. It's Jeremy, and do you call this version Yes, Jeremy?
You call it Strung Out, Jeremy, maybe. Yeah, it would have been. It's funny you mention it. It would have been cool to get a little nod to the No Jeremy, if they had played it a little more slowed down, a little.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been a cool thing. But yeah, same way. I'll have to go back and listen. I didn't get a chance to really dig into it, but I do want to go back and listen to it a few more times and see if I can distinguish the strings there, because it's intriguing. It's an interesting choice. But again, I think the guitars and the drums kind of overwhelm the strings on this one.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's a really tough song to do, and I'm sure it seemed like in the beginning Ed was kind of saying, "Stay there, guys, stay there." So I don't know. Maybe they weren't expecting, and maybe they were just kind of doing it on the fly, or they didn't, or they talked about it backstage, and they were like, maybe we'll do Jeremy, but maybe not. So, I with more practice and more of a general idea on this, I think it could have been pretty good.
It would have been cool to replace that bass riff at the beginning with the cello or something. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But
that would have been fantastic.
We can hindsight's 20/20, as they say.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's a Vitamin String Quartet version of Jeremy out there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But the crowd was on fire during this.
Oh, yeah.
This was
Jeremy
really
always gets a big reaction.
Three more in the last set. One I really want to highlight is Light Years, but we'll get to that. Breath is before Light Years, and man, Breath, the band is on fire during Breath. Mike's solo is incredible during this one. It's just they are taking the encore and they're bringing it to new levels. I felt like this show had a really good build up until the big moments. You get big moments for Rearview Mirror, and then there's some really big moments in Encore 2. I feel like all of the stuff that was happening in the first set is building to the really good stuff that's happening in these encores.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I've said it before. Eddie's a master of crafting these set lists. He knows if we're gonna make the main set a little weirder, maybe structured a little differently, then we're gonna hit them hard in the encores, and we're gonna bring it home, make sure these people get their money's worth.
Yep. Yeah, they did a really good job with this one, obviously, with a huge canvas to work on, and after Breath, you get a song that's almost never in an encore with Light Years, and
fantastic.
This was great. Light Years, I've never seen it live before, but listening to it on bootlegs, you listen to a couple from the 2000 tour, and you listen to a couple spliced in here and there, and it's one of those songs that kind of, I guess, like what I was saying with MFC, I might be a little take it or leave it with live, just because the riff is so choppy, it's kind of clunky a little bit, and to keep pace is a little difficult. But like this one, I felt like they were really on top of their game.
This is one of my favorites. This is a song that pushes probably into the top 10 for me sometimes. I got to hear it in Columbia, South Carolina in 2016, the night that we found out that Prince had died, and they kind of played it as a tribute to him. It was really, really special. I absolutely adore the song. Like the meaning behind it, the melody of it. Like I said, it pushes into the top 10 for me of Pearl Jam songs.
They do tribute this to somebody that's a friend of a friend that had lost somebody. So, obviously very emotional there. And that gets us into ending the set with Rearview Mirror. Man, we've talked about Rearview Mirror billions of times, billions of different spots. And it sounds different every single time. They're doing different stuff. Mike is here, he's on the whammy bar and he's doing a lot of soloing with the delay effect. Stone is doing a lot of distortion moves, and Ed during this whole time is doing the same, I will forgive, I will forget, that we've heard basically the last 3 or 4 weeks that we've done this song. So, we're kind of on a kick with that. And, they kind of smooth out and they cool off right before going into the bass line and having everybody clap, and it kind of gets to, it gets quiet instead of having that like big mat drum build up, which I really like.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best live songs. Like we said before, there's not a bad version of it.
That takes us into Encore 2, and Ed obviously making the baseball reference. Phillies in the World Series, so he's saying let's go extra innings here, and they take that energy from Rearview Mirror and plug it right into Whipping to start this encore. I love channeling that energy. It's just running on full adrenaline, and it's kind of funny. What I thought about when they opened this encore with Whipping? What I thought about? What they did the next night, what they would open the second encore with.
Yeah.
Whip It.
Yeah.
So, not sure who picked up on that, but I don't know if that was something that they necessarily had planned. Like, hey, we're going to do Whip It tomorrow, so let's do Whipping tonight.
Right.
So,
but Ed's. I can see Eddie laughing to himself as he came up with that. Like, I'm the only one that's
Probably.
going to get this.
Yeah. Well, we figured you out, Ed. We figured you out. So we know you're listening, by the way.
Absolutely.
Corduroy boy 10. Yeah, great version of whipping.
Oh yeah, such a cool thing to come out in an Encore 2, where you normally would you expect to get like a State 11 Trust or a,
Life
Go
Wasted,
or something like
that.
to come out with something like whipping just immediately brings that crowd energy back up to 11.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And we have some interesting things in this Encore 2. I think this is a really well done and well configured Encore here. We get Crazy Mary after whipping, and did you notice in the beginning of this there's a little bit of trepidation, like they kind of start the chord and they kind of stop a little bit. He doesn't sing right away.
She lived on a curve in the road in an old tar paper shack.
You remember the Philly show that we covered a couple months back where we talked about how Crazy Mary, there was a big amp malfunction in it?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's like sort of a and I wasn't watching the video at the time, but I'm wondering if that was sort of like a tease, like, hey, are you sure we're doing this? Are you sure we're doing this? Are you sure the ghost of Mary's not going to haunt us again?
Right.
Because, when I think of Crazy Mary, I now equate it to Philadelphia.
Well, there was probably some ghosts in the spectrum that were floating around that had a few things to say, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you have to walk on eggshells over there. That's for damn sure. If you had ever been in that building, which I haven't, but I've heard notorious things about the bathroom situation and
Eric Lindros just wandering the halls randomly.
I don't know if that was happening, but I'm sure at some point it was. But this Crazy Mary, look, another one that we can't say really anything bad about. This is the power of Boom and Mike, and really you have a lot of good back and forth going on here. They do it twice where they're back and forth, and Mike does the Stairway to Heaven way.
Yeah, they were definitely back in versus mode, not co-op mode in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it when they trade off and try to outdo each other, and they had probably talked about it, and Mike was like, "Oh yeah, try Stairway to Heaven."
Who do you think won this one? Even though he did Stairway, who do you think won?
I gotta think Mike always wins.
See, I actually thought
he's
that
hard to beat.
Yeah, he's expert level, but I thought that if Boom's giving him a run for his money on this one was better than average. I thought that this one had a lot of power, a lot of oomph behind it. I thought Boom did his job splendidly. Whether or not he's an official member of the band, he killed it on this version. This all sounded good. So maybe it's just
he earns his money on this one.
Maybe it was just a tie. We'll just call it a tie.
Tie goes to the guitarist.
Yeah, I guess so. The guitarist is always on offense, so that takes us from Crazy Mary into this little section right here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do something a little bit different since the three songs are so connected with each other. We're going to play them all at once. We're going to play them back to back to back, and then we'll talk about them as a whole. So what you're getting here is you're not getting the Mamasan, but you're getting the Mamasan starting with Footsteps and ending with Alive. And we'll play all this, and we'll kind of do like a montage of the three songs, and we'll get right back into it.
I won't be home. Don't even think about stopping by. No, don't think of me at all. I did what I had to do. And if there was a reason, it was you. What's to say? What? Without paying and backseat lover on the side of the road. I got a bomb in my temple that is gonna explode. I got CCTs buried under my clothes. I paid. Once upon a time, I could lose myself. Once upon a time, I could control myself. Yeah. Oh, she walked slowly across the young man's room. She said, I'm ready now for you. I can't remember anything to this fairy tale except the look, yeah, the look. Oh, you know where now I can see it. Oh, I just stay. I'm still alive. Yeah. Oh, I'm still alive. Yeah. Oh, I'm still alive. Yeah. Oh, I'm still alive.
So my first instinct when hearing this, first of all, the first thing I'm thinking about is the transition from Crazy Mary into Footsteps. I thought was tremendous. Usually you get Crazy Mary into Alive or, something, A State of Love and Trust, something that's more powerful. But going from Crazy Mary into something that's a little less than Crazy Mary, I think is even better to me. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, and Footsteps is a song that, yes, it's a little quieter. It's a little, it's not a rocker, but it still has power, and it still hits hard in its own way, and it deserves a spot in an encore too, for sure. Even if it wasn't linked with these other two songs, it's a highlight whenever you get it.
Yeah, and I was telling you beforehand that when listening to this and Mamasan was on my mind, you sort of, with Alive where it is and it's in its normal spot, I sort of forgot for a second that Alive was the first song. This felt so natural to me. That
and they'll do this occasionally where they'll play it in reversely because building to Alive is what you're going to get an encore to. They're not going to go from Alive down to Footsteps in an Encore 2.
No.
You're going to build in reverse. So this is something that they'll pull out occasionally. And yeah, it's so cool. I'm sure, a lot of people there, once they heard Once, after Footsteps, they knew what was coming after that.
Right. Yeah. I think at that point, end of the night. Yeah. I think you're onto something there. And for all of you stat heads out there, they've done the reverse Mamasan 8 times. So that's I wonder if that's actually more than they've done the actual Mamasan.
I would say probably less.
Well,
that would be my guess.
Here's the thing: they did the Mamasan really early on around that Zurich area time period, but
I think
after that they really didn't bring it back that much.
I want to say in 98, 2000, it popped up a few times. Once is really good. It's got a good pacing to it, good speed. I thought it worked really well, and Alive, you get a little bit of the hey hey heys at the end. The crowd's really into it.
Yeah, obviously you know what's coming at this point in the night. It's Alive and one or two other songs, and you're gonna give it your all when you hear it, and especially that you're putting this connection together, that you're getting the reverse story that started the band's history. You're realizing that this, what we've all taken in here is a pretty special show. So you got 2 more left, and Ed is before he gets into some punk rock, he's mentioning Small Club Dodds that they used to play in Philly, and Ed kind of here, this is where he throws shade on the first 2 nights, and he says, I don't know where you guys have been, but the crowd in this building deserves this, and
just blatant pandering to the crowd.
Pretty much, yeah. But this was a really good crowd. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So it also kind of does the same, who went to college speech that we talked about last week on the MSG show. Stone went for a year. Matt worked at Kinko's. I didn't graduate high school, and he's kind of like, it's great to see a bunch of guys that didn't get their education from school, make it to this point in their career. And, they said it was an honor to take the opportunity to play the last few shows at the Spectrum. And now it's time to play some punk rock. Sonic Reducer. You notice that Ed got into the song a little early, right?
Yeah, he's
a little
I'm
excited.
sure the wine from Crazy Mary had probably kicked in a little bit by this point. He was probably
I would
feeling
think
it.
so. Yeah, I think he had a lot to drink at this show. I think this was a big drinking show for him. I know the next night was definitely a drinking show. So
they were off a little bit in Baba too. We can channel our bring the ghost of Matt for Halloween back into the episode. There was a little, you could nitpick a little bit in these last 2 songs about the performance, but it's the end of the night. The crowd's into it. This is the celebration part of the show, so it's 2 great covers to end it with. Nothing wrong with it for me.
Yeah, really what it is energy.
Yeah.
It's you're taking in the energy. That this is the penultimate night of the Spectrum, and that these are the last 2 songs at that they're going to tear the house down, and you get in Baba, you get everybody singing the Teenage Wasteland part where the band completely lays out for it. Spine chilling moment. It's all about the crowd at this point. It's all about building the party atmosphere, and whether or not Mike was really in sync with the band in the solo part. I can give a pass to that. That's fine for me. It's all about the energy and having fun out there.
Yeah, and it gives the crowd one last chance to scream along and have a moment and yell, the Teenage Wasteland line. That's something that everyone is going to put everyone in a good mood at the end of the show.
Absolutely. So we've made it there. We're at the end. Top 3 moments. Let's do that section. What do you got?
My number 3, I'll say Hold On. Getting a debut of a song like that, a really cool song. We talked about what an interesting kind of history it had. getting a debut of a song in 2009 is certainly special. So I'll put that as my number 3. Number 2, I'll say the whole reverse Mamasan thing, Footsteps Once Alive. Great versions of each of those. And then number 1, we talked about it, Light Years. Like, absolutely special version of Light Years, one of my favorite songs.
All right. I was wondering what your number 1 was going to be because we were almost the same exact thing.
All right, cool.
3 for me was Hold On, for basically, to get a debut song, like you said, it's just kind of an honor, and, it's a wow moment for the crowd. It's a wow moment for the band. And on top of that, it was a really kind of perfect performance. So, cool song you don't get to hear too often. And, we never covered it before, so it was a pleasure to do that. My number 2, which I thought was going to end up being your number 1, that we were going to have flipped number 1 and number 2. My number 2 is Parting Ways, and for this being not just a rare song and, being an underrated Pearl Jam song, one of the batch of underrated Pearl Jam songs that you could say, never really get put up in the discussion for anything, to have that with the string section behind it, I thought it was really powerful. I thought the strings were a really, really good addition for this one. I was really happy to hear this. So,
Absolutely.
Good version. And number 1 for me is Reverse Mamasan. I think that's a moment when you hear it live. I'm a huge fan of Footsteps. It's one of my favorite songs, and I can envision being in the crowd and seeing that moment, and after live just saying, that kind of felt like that. And it's the unique moments from the show that really stand out, and really different things that you would get from a set list. You don't get you didn't get a Daughter or a Better Man.
Yeah, no Corduroy, no Better Man, no Even Flow, no Black.
Yeah.
A lot of their go-to songs are missing from the set.
Yeah, and you have them replaced with things like present tense, and you're giving those kind of songs the chance to shine in maybe a spot where a Daughter or a Black would shine. So, Black might have, in a normal set, Black might have been in there instead of Light Years. Right. So, it's a cool way to change it up, and it was happy. I was happy to listen to this. This was a nice change of pace, even if we have covered a ton of things from this era. So
yeah, well, what do you
get to? Yeah,
what do you rate?
Been thinking about it. I think I have more positive things than I thought I was gonna say. But ultimately, a lot of the reason why we did this is that after last year doing Night 4, which I had known for years, and we were pretty much novices back then, and we kind of wanted to get to the basic of the big shows, and closing the spectrum is a big one because of Whip It and Bugs and all that other stuff. But after doing that, everybody would get in touch afterwards, on the boards when talking about it or just reading other things, and people would say Night 3 was the best. So I'm like, okay, well, if Night 3 is the best, I'm going to save it for the same spot that we did Night 4 in. And I can see why people say that. Night 4 had some issues at the end. I think they definitely they lacked the stamina. Once it got to the last encore, they were just like, you guys, they're making some mistakes, and I think the crowd was getting restless because the Phillies were losing and all that. So this, I feel like everything was really relaxed at this show. I think there was a really good vibe, a really good atmosphere. They kind of knew that the next night was going to be the one where they really had to bring the rock star A game. So for that, and some of the song placement was a little perplexing, and I would have liked something in between that Fixer and In My Tree, but that doesn't really ruin a rating for me. I would give this an 8.5, I would say.
That's fair. I think yes, it's a little scattered of a main set, and you're missing a lot of those go-to classic songs. But I think it still works. I think like I said, he knows when to place things and he knows what to do. He's been doing it a long time, so I'll give it a 9. I think having Hold On, you get 4 no code songs, Parting Ways, Light Years, the reverse Mamasan, getting Whipping in an encore 2, a Crazy Mary, and ending with Sonic Reducer and Barbara. I'll give it a 9. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think, anything within that range, 8 to 9.5. If people want to give it a 10, that were there, I won't argue with them. So, this was a good one to cover. This was a good one to listen to. But
Yeah, definitely.
I'm done with this era for a while. I'm done with it. I want to go back to feeling songs like Animal and Go, and feeling crowds that are in mosh pits and going bananas and all that. And next week, I think, is pretty much the pinnacle of that kind of era.
Well, did we say what we were doing next week?
I haven't mentioned it yet.
Let's do it.
For all you that know, the Shoe Rant and Fuck Me in the Brain, this is a pretty popular show from 1993. Since it's kind of the anniversary, I think, within a couple of days from when we're going to release it, we're heading to India. We're doing a California show. It's been a while since we've done California, but this is
little West Coast.
Yeah, this is obviously one of the peak bootlegs of the early years, and we're gonna have Buckley on. He loves this show. He's gonna cover this with us.
I definitely had this one on a cassette tape.
I wish I was in that era. I wish I was collecting tapes with you guys, because that's just, man. I'm sure you guys have so much stuff built up. You said that we have something kind of special that we're actually going to use in the Indio episode next week, that I don't know if we can find it on the internet anywhere, so we might be the ones.
Something I had recorded on a cassette from a long time ago.
So, yeah, well, thank everybody. Thank John for converting his cassette to digital. That's a tough task.
It's a labor of love.
Exactly. Anything else? Obviously Patreon. Head up over to Patreon if you want to contribute to the show. We have the State of Love and Trust Evolution episode up over there, including the other Evolution episodes we've done of Live and Leash, and obviously sometimes we have some topics that get lost on the cutting room floor when we're doing episodes. Like last week for MSG, we had a lot of really good talking points about grievance and Amongst the Waves, and just about stories from the day that couldn't quite make the show because we really wanted to hit that one hard. And from the feedback that we've gotten, and this is right after the episode is released, we've gotten a lot of really good feedback, so thank you for everybody for chiming in. That was one Buckley and I said afterwards we were really, really proud of that one. So thank you for your feedback, and thanks for listening to that one. We're really proud to do that. That's a lot of stuff that's on Patreon. So patreon.com/liveon4legs. We're doing more. We promise.
Yeah, and thanks again to Dylan and Jason for donating. Be like them. It's like I said, only $1 a month gives you access to everything. There are not a lot of podcasts that will do that. A lot of them will make you shell out the bucks for the higher tiers to come on or anything like that. But we're trying to keep it accessible. So just $1 a month. Gives you access to all the exclusive episodes and bonus things, and a lot more coming up next year. So, yeah, I'm excited.
You wanted to plug something.
Yeah, there's I was lucky enough to be a guest on another podcast called Deprogrammed. It's a really cool thing where these guys do a different band each week, and they pick like a starter kit of 10 songs. They kind of go back and forth. It's kind of half game show, half music podcast. So you kind of argue about the songs, and like that's right up my alley because I love arguing about music. They've actually they did Pearl Jam a few years ago, but I'm working on them to try to get them back in the rotation there. But it's called Deprogrammed. If people want to check it out, I was on last week doing an episode about the Weaker Thans. Great band that I love from Canada. So if you're interested, check that out. They do all kinds of genres. If you're into music at all, definitely check it out.
Yeah. Besides that, we got trivia tonight and every Wednesday night, unless something drastic happens. So be on social media accounts on Facebook at 8 p.m. Eastern Time sharp. With that being said, I think we are done for this show. We'll see you back next week for Indio, and this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. Although we may be parting ways with the string section, I miss you already. I miss you always. That was terrible. Why'd I do that?
I thought you were going to say strung out parting ways.
Then I could have, but, I did my own dad thing, I suppose. But anyway, for John and Randy and for the Philadelphia 2009 penultimate night at the Spectrum, we'll see you back here next week for Indio 93.
Happy Halloween. Send us your Pearl Jam Halloween costumes.